Hi, this is the Champ from the Champ's Forecast newsletter, February 2017. I'd like to share with you today a video on prepping for the economic collapse, which is going to happen whether you realize that or not. Most likely, if you're watching this video, you are convinced or at least believe that it could happen and are looking for ways to prepare for it. Well, this video I seek to share with you what I think is absolutely essential to have before and during an economic collapse to survive. It's all about survival. It's for you, for your family. You want to live through this period because after this period, if you prepared correctly and you get through the collapse part, whether that's 2 months, 6 months, a year, I doubt it will go longer, but if you make it through that, then you will unbelievably prosper if you've done everything else. And by everything else, I mean buy precious metals. My first video talks in depth about why precious metals, especially silver. But I won't get into that right now. Right now, I just want to share with you what you need to get and really to survive this coming collapse, which is going to happen. So the first thing is water. Okay, you cannot live without water. A human being cannot go more than 3 days before their internal organs and their systems start to shut down if they do not have water. You can go for 3 weeks without food, but you can only go for 3 days without water before you really get into some serious trouble. Okay, so the first thing is means for purification and storage. A water filter or a filtration system and a way to store that water. A great company, one which I've actually bought a water filter from, is Katadyn. And it's a great company because they have different levels of water bottles as far as pricing goes, from $89 to $250. And really, you can find out, what's best for you, your family, and the size of the people that you plan to be with during this collapse. Okay, but water filtration, storing it, the ability to keep it clean and potable or drinkable, safe to drink as they say, is going to be vital. The second thing that you need, most importantly, is food. This is common sense. You cannot survive without food. Now, they say you can survive up to 21 days without food or 3 weeks, but to get to that point, you're going to be so weakened and really just, you do not want to be in that state. Okay, so this is, again, common sense. So what kind of food, though, right? What is affordable? What works with your particular budget? They have food stores that are the 25-year shelf life variety. Buckets and bins of food that they bought special order. Okay, you can buy these from these companies. If you go to Google, you can certainly buy those. I went with rice and beans and vegetables, canned goods, those sort of things that you can buy at the Costco's and those sorts of stores where you buy in bulk. Okay, so I simply use those supplies as I go, as they're about to expire, and then I rebuy and I replenish my supply. And I've been doing this for a couple of years. So for me, it's natural. I buy the foods that I like, and I buy in bulk, and I use them as they're getting to their expiration date. But I still keep my store. So as I'm replenishing, I'm growing my store, my storage, okay? That it needs to be kept in a place that will be protected from water, protected from extreme temperatures. Certainly cold is not going to affect food in a bad way, right? Freezers, you can freeze food, but as far as heat and exposure to moisture, those are bad things. That's where food grows bacteria, mold, and it really goes bad a lot quicker. Okay, so for me, it was rice, storing it, whether it's airtight sealed plastic bags, beans, keeping them in the cans that they come in, certainly different types of vegetables. That's how I store my food. In terms of amount, you want to have at least 2 months supply for every person in the household. So figure out how much you would eat or how much a particular person would eat in a given day and then times that by 60. Okay, so you really want to make sure that you have enough food and you want to have a variety of food. You don't want to just be eating rice and beans every day. So make sure you get spices or hot sauce and different vegetables that you can mix in, and meat and chili. Okay, so if you can do that, if you have a freezer, my good friend has a deep freezer, so it's just a bin, and he spent about 300 something dollars for this, but he can store meat in it for a long period of time. Okay, so that's really key. The ability to store food and to have enough to feed your household and your group. So remember, if you're going to have other members come to where you are, if you're going to where someone else is, make sure that you can either have enough so that you can supply for everyone that's going to be in your group, or have a way that you can transport it because you're going to need food. The other bigger picture with food, besides just storing food that you buy or storing the 25-year shelf life type of a food that comes in those buckets, which is fantastic, by the way. That hasn't been my choice. The other thing is, so if this crash and this collapse goes longer than a year, that's where we're going to have to really think about the change of lifestyle. Okay, so really a change of, you're not going to be able to go into, and even if this goes more than a month or so, you're going to have to really think about hunting, absolutely. But if it goes longer than that, raising animals and farming. So the best thing to do right now is educate yourself on how to farm, on how to raise animals, and how to hunt. And not only how to shoot an animal, but how to skin it and gather the meat and know what you can eat and what you shouldn't eat. Okay, so those things are going to be very important. And right now is the time for that education. Okay, so YouTube, there's plenty of videos on YouTube. If you type in hunting, or if you type in how to skin a deer, if you type in raising farm animals, or growing vegetables and farming, you will learn a plethora of information that can help you during this collapse period and even after it. Okay, so these things, these valuable skills will continue with you for a lifetime. It's just amazing to be able to live off the land and sustain your family and not have to depend on anyone else. Okay, what also is part of this picture as far as the long term and with raising animals and farming is, how many acres of land do you need to do that? Now, I have a good friend who has 3 acres of land, and he's able to have a basically a barn, a stable of animals, chickens, sheep, llamas, and all kinds of animals that he keeps on this 3 acres. Now, is 3 acres enough? I don't know. Depends where you are, right? If you're outside of a major city, certainly 3 acres could be enough, where maybe you sort of have an agreement and understanding with your neighbors, okay, and they become a resource for you. You sort of work as a group, okay? That becomes your group, your survival group. But I would say if you can get at least 10 acres of land, that would be ideal, because that will provide enough land that you can live for years in terms of farming and raising animals, and even having enough land to hunt. So if you can hunt on your own land, you're so much safer. You don't have to worry about being on someone else's property or being on a public land or any of that infighting that could go on. So if you have enough land, and I really think 10 acres would be a minimum as far as being ideal. The more the better, obviously, and the more tucked away. The only thing you have to think about when you're tucked away is safety and a medical emergency. So let's say something happens or someone's sick in your group. You really have to either have the medical supplies or the knowledge in that group and on that vicinity there, or you're going to have a place that's close by that you can go to. So remoteness is fantastic, to be away from maybe the hordes of people that would be traveling around looking to pillage or take resources from other people, but you do have to balance it with the need for a possible medical emergency or medicine. Okay, the ability to access medicine. On to shelter. So location. This is key. Joel Skousen has great videos on YouTube and has written a fantastic book on this. And all you have to do is YouTube Joel Skousen, and you can kind of really get a overall picture of where in the country in the U.S. might work. Some believe out of the country is better. I personally do not, because of the gun laws outside of the U.S. right now, and I believe with President Trump, I think things are looking pretty good as far as gun owners. And in the case of a collapse, you'd want to be as local and as independent as possible, and that means gun ownership. So I'm not going to rely on a government to protect me. I don't think you should. I think having the right to defend yourself and your family is a basic right, and that's written in the Constitution. And I really believe that's going to be important in the time where things are going to get a little bit hairy, more than hairy. Okay, so location. Joel talks about the macro of where in the U.S. and that's great if you can move there or buy a ranch in Idaho or something like this. But that's not for everybody, right? Not everybody has that type of money or resources that they can just do that. A lot of us work. We work in cities or we work outside of cities, and we have to be realistic. Okay, so it's really up to you. Now, I've actually moved from New York City, and it's taken me the past 5 years, but I've moved around enough where I'm far enough away. I'm about 7 hours out of New York City right now, and about 2.5 to 3 hours from the next major city. So for me, I'm in a place that I feel comfortable, and that's the thing for you. Where do you feel comfortable? And if not, maybe you live in an apartment in the city. Is there a place that you can go to that you will be comfortable? Okay, comfortable enough to be out of the crosshairs of any kind of craziness, riots, looters, you know, gangs, all of those things that can really take off and escalate as things get worse, especially when we get to that tipping point, which I believe is in the next 6 to 18 months. So having a place to go and knowing how to, shelter yourself, have water, store food, and protect yourself and your family, okay, and your group. But definitely land is going to be key. Having a location also to bug out to. So you're going to have a location certainly maybe where you live now, but also if you need to get to a place that's safer. So a bug out location. Now, to bug out just to the woods, I think is quite dangerous. I think you're setting yourself up for basically exposure to not only other people but elements, okay, whether that's heat exhaustion in the summer or hypothermia in the winter. Either way, of course, you're going to need shelter. So that's something to consider. Make sure that you're out of a major city or you have a place to go to that is out of a major city and safe, as tucked away as possible. The next thing is protection and defense. So guns and ammo. You need to be able to protect yourself and your group during this period. So as far as I'm concerned, guns in order of importance, number one for me is a shotgun. A shotgun packs a tremendous punch, and they're fairly affordable. I would say they're on the most affordable side. About $200 to $250 can get you a pretty decent shotgun, and even less than that for a used shotgun. Okay, so that is the starting point. You can also hunt with it. There are different types, you can buy bird shot, different types of shot, buckshot that you can hunt with. So for me, shotgun is number one. Number two, a 22 long rifle. They are extremely affordable. The ammunition is extremely cheap, so you can get 1,000 rounds for a fraction of the cost of obviously more standard ammo. You can hunt with them. You can hunt small game, small animals, birds certainly. Although even a pellet gun would be better for that. So you can get a pellet gun even cheaper, and the pellets are even less. But I would say a 22 rifle or a pellet gun, something to hunt small game with. Okay, and either is fine. I would have a pellet gun regardless, but if you have to choose one, a 22 or a pellet gun, either one is fine as far as number two goes. Number three, a handgun. Okay, so let's think about you going into town or having to travel around during this period, and maybe things are still halfway okay, but there's still sort of danger in the air. You're going to want to have something that you can conceal. Okay, handgun does that best. It's hard to carry around a shotgun and look like everything's normal and you're just sort of shopping in, wherever the food center is or going into town. So a handgun is key. It's also great for defense. You can carry it on you. It doesn't take up too much. You can have it on you all day while you're doing other tasks, chopping wood, cooking, all those sorts of things. So a handgun, great. Number four for me is a hunting rifle. Having the ability to take down large game will be crucial. Think about you being locked away for winter or periods of time where you can't really travel around. That ability to take down a large animal, store their meat, and really live off of that as part of your daily staple is, I think, absolutely a benefit. And a hunting rifle does that best. Whether you're taking down deer, moose, bear, whatever the animal is that's considered a larger game animal. Hunting rifles do that best, and there's different, certainly different calibers. A 308, 30-06. Um, I have a 247. It really depends upon your ability to take a shot in the shoulder, as they say, as you're shooting. Okay, and I think either one of those calibers are fine. If you're going to be obviously hunting big game animal, then you're going to need something that packs a little bit more of a punch. But a standard hunting rifle, 30-06, 308, that will do you well. Number 5 is an assault rifle. There may come a time where you have to defend yourself and your group from invaders, from roaming gangs, from those who have not prepared. I believe the assault rifle is probably the best defense a civilian can have against threats, against harmful threats. So there are different types. Certainly, you want to consider your price range. But at the end of the day, you want to have a way to defend yourself and your group from a serious threat, a military style or gang related threat. One, an assault rifle. I think of three kinds, obviously, in my mind. There are plenty, but I think as far as affordability goes, the AK-47 or the SKS, and certainly AR, the AR platform. ARs tend to be obviously more expensive. So if you have the means and the resources, ARs are great. I do hear, and I've not experienced this, but they are a little bit harder to clean and maintain. They may jam up a little bit, depending upon which one you have. And some, I'm sure, are immaculate and they shoot perfectly. You can run 1,000 rounds through them, whether you're in rain, mud, whatever. But for me, I went with the SKS platform. It's sort of the older brother to the AK-47, except it has a more accurate long-range capability. So that's what I went with. The next thing is medical supplies. So antibiotics, vitamins, pain pills, alcohol even. Things that you'll need whether someone has a cold, a fever, an infection, an inflammation, Tylenol, Advil, all those things, first aid kits, things that will help you if you cannot go to a hospital or an ER, right? So you have to think about you're going to be basically on your own, or your group is going to be on their own, depending upon each other to make it through this collapse. If anyone in your group has medical training or has worked in the emergency medical services industry, you're going to be at such a greater advantage. Okay, so the ability to take care of yourselves in this experience and going through this collapse is an edge. And if you don't have anyone, make sure that you know how to do this, okay, to the best of your ability. I'm not saying you're going to go to med school overnight, but for you to learn as much as you can through the internet, through YouTube, as far as at least first aid and even, the cures, or how to take care of simple and common ailments. Okay, maybe that's buying a book online or just researching right now and creating your own book, creating your own handbook. Okay, so that will be vital. The next thing I'd like to include in this is camping supplies. So in case you actually need to bug out and have a bag where, let's say your location is compromised or it's invaded by either a force, martial law, or another roaming band of individuals looking to pillage because perhaps they didn't prepare, you're going to need a way to efficiently and quickly get out of Dodge and leave, and take with you supplies that you can survive if you had to go into the wilderness, or maybe you have a destination that you've pre-selected, hopefully, that you're going to travel to in case that happens, and you're going to need maybe supplies to get you to that point. Okay, so that's flashlights, that's matches, ponchos, a tent, rope, a hunting knife, machete. Certainly you're going to be taking your arms with you, a hand axe. They have great axes now that fold, that you can unfold, that you can chop wood with, start fires, and that makes me think of a flint striker. Okay, flint striker, you just simply take your knife and strike it, and it creates a spark. You can do this, thousands of times on some of these flint strikers, and they have them in the keychain form, so you can just attach it, even right now, to your keychain, and no one would even really know what that is. Okay, you can also have it as part of your knife case that you have. They're great because you get an instant spark. No matter what the weather's like, you can really start a fire so much easier. So that should be all part of your hunting and camping supplies that you bring with you when you maybe have to bug out. Okay, when you have to get out of Dodge. The other thing too is any tools. So a shovel. They have shovels now that double as a shovel and as a saw, so you can actually chop down small trees or branches that you can use for your firewood. And I have one that actually folds up. So do your research, find out what's in your price range, and get something like that you're going to need if you have to bug out. The next series of items that I would say are fairly important to have, and depending upon if your group is in one place or two places, will make all the difference, are a means of communications. So to stay attuned to the macro picture of what's going on, a ham radio, AM radio, something that you can tune in and listen and hear what's going on if there are broadcasts. And usually, even during the toughest of times, you think of World War II, even World War I, where there's underground radio and people are communicating signals and codes, you're going to want to have a radio, okay, a portable hand radio that you can have, and the batteries that can power that radio. The other thing is walkie-talkies. So the ability to even split up within your group and still stay in communication as needed. Flare guns. If you have been separated from your group for whatever reason, and maybe you're not going to carry this with you all the time, but if you know maybe you have to, you have a plan that you're going to separate if something happens, and have the ability to signal each other or signal a larger group that can help you. Certainly, we talked about in our first video the precious metals as far as wealth protection and preserving, and not only preserving but increasing your purchasing power, silver and gold, Bitcoin if you can. Okay, but silver is vital, then gold if you can afford it. Bitcoin is third on my list out of the precious metals and sort of wealth protection instruments. The last but not least, and this is key because you're going to be going through some trying times psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. Have yourself in order, okay? So get right with the Lord, as they say. Tough times, things are going to get very tough, and you're going to have to dig very deep, and you're going to have to be really, really able to tap into a source greater than yourself. Okay, so for me, that's having some relationship with God, the Lord. I'm a Christian, so I believe in Jesus, and that is my way to believe and get through tough times. But you're going to need your own way, okay, and that's up to you. But you're going to need something, because as they say, there are no atheists in foxholes. The other thing, too, is mentally prepare yourself for this. This is going to be a not only once in a lifetime, but a once in history type of event. Okay, certainly for America. And, there have been previous tough times, but this is going to be across the board. Okay, this is a global economic financial collapse here. So this is going to be unprecedented. So, as they say, chance favors the prepared mind. So, chance favors the prepared mind. Prepare yourself mentally. Keep yourself fit spiritually and physically, and do all you can. That's what we can do, and we leave the rest up to God. God bless you. Happy hunting, and stay well. The Champ.